Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Khurram Shehzad. Today I am going to answer some of the questions. Students usually ask what is the difference between discourse and text? And the other question that they ask is what makes discourse discourse? So I am going to answer both of them respectively. One should remember that there are certain people, they will say there is no difference between discourse and text. Then there are people who will say that spoken conversation is discourse and written communication is text. But what I would say here is that there is no difference in discourse and text. The only difference is the realization of a discourse on a piece of paper is called text. The realization of discourse on a piece of paper is called text. Otherwise, discourse or text, they are almost the same thing. No doubt, whatever you see on the page, that is a text, and whatever is spoken, that is a discourse. But at the same time, we have got discourse on the internet, that is e-discourse. We have got discourse on a written piece of paper, and we have got discourse, that is conversation, that is spoken discourse. So we can say there are three types of discourses: spoken conversation, conversation, then written discourse, then e-discourse. And these days there are various ways that people use, okay, because it is postmodern world, and we have got internet, and we have got different gadgets. Technology is involved. So when you come across different kinds of symbols, signs, okay, colors, then written expressions, then even your facial expressions. All these are part of discourse. Now, other question was that what makes discourse discourse? Remember, there are 7 characteristics that makes discourse discourse. Number 1 is cohesion. Number 2 is coherence. Number 3 is intentionality. Number 4 is informativity. Number 5 is setting. Number 6 is intertextuality. And number 7 is acceptability. Now, what is the difference between cohesion and coherence? You must have read the difference between cohesion and coherence in your academic writing course. But in simple words, what I would say is that cohesion is on the page. You will come across cohesion on the page. For example, words like and, but, so, moreover, therefore, in addition to, resultantly, consequently, as a result. All these words, they are there on the page. You can find them on the page, and they have got their own purposes. For example, and is used when two ideas, they are same, they are there on the text, on the page. For example, you have written something, and the next idea is going to add something into it. So you can use and, you can use moreover, you can use in addition to, you can use besides. Then but is used when there is another idea which is going to contradict the first idea. For example, I like him, but he comes late in the classroom. So, this second idea, but he comes late in the classroom, is contradictory to the first idea which is explained. Then, or is there, it means option is there. You can stay here or you can leave. Then, so is there. So is used when there is some kind of result. Ali is ill today, so he could not come to the university. So this is how they all cohesive devices, they have got different purposes, and you need to know them so that you should be able to use them perfectly well in your written and spoken discourse. Then coherence. Coherence is in the mind. Overall idea that you collect, that you gather from a piece of text that you are reading or a paragraph that you have read. Okay, so we have got ability which helps us to understand that this was the topic sentence and these were the ideas which were trying to elaborate the concept of the topic sentence and how the argument is developed, and then there is a conclusion, and all these are there. Our mind helps us to understand, so this is the cognitive ability. Okay, so coherence is in the mind, cohesion is on the page. Then the next was intentionality. Of course, whenever you want to write something, there are certain intentions, certain goals that you want to achieve, that you want to attain. For example, you want to express your feelings and emotions, or you want to give information to the other person, or you want to build up your argument in favor of, let's say, that should we have co-education in our universities and colleges or not. Okay, so there are certain intentions that you always want to fulfill with the help of discourse that you are producing. So, all kinds of discourses, whether written, spoken, or e-discourse, they have got intentions, they have got goals, they have got ends, which you want to fulfill at the end of the discourse. Then next was informativity. Of course, all discourses they have got certain new in them. If there isn't anything new, we would not love to listen to what the person is saying. We would not love to read. If we already know something, so we are not going to read that book. We are not going to read that piece of text. So there is always something new. Some new information is there. So it is one of the characteristics of discourse that it has got some new information. Then there is acceptability. Of course, the discourse that you are producing, it has to be acceptable in the society. If it is not acceptable, people are not going to read, people are not going to listen to you. Therefore, it is very important that the discourse that you are producing, you should keep in mind the values, traditions, culture of that society. And then you should produce the discourse which is acceptable to the people who are going to listen to you, people who are going to read you, what you have written, what you have said. So acceptability is another criterion that you need to understand, that it is one of the characteristics of discourse. Then another characteristics of discourse is that it has intertextuality, interdiscursivity. Discourse is coming from discursive, or discursive is coming from discourse. So there are references implicitly or explicitly to other discourses that we are producing. Basically, our discourse is also a one drop from a sea of discourse. Okay, so if we look at our leaders, political leaders, they will give reference to the Holy Prophet, they will talk about the Holy Quran, they will bring something from the era of Hazrat Umar or from the era of Hazrat Ali, Karamallah Wajho. All these things you will find there in the discourse. Okay, so if you are reading a text, you will find that the author is giving reference. Okay, when he quotes, he gives reference, he adds words, and he adds date and year and name of the author. So this is how the reference is given. Then sometimes when you are using the ideas of other people but you are giving them in your own words, again the reference is given, but this time the page number is not important to give. But our discourse is intertextual. It is called intertextuality. It is also one of the features of discourse. So we have talked about cohesion, coherence, informativity, acceptability, intertextuality, and intentionality, and last one is setting. Of course, context is very important whenever you are producing discourse. It is very important to see who is the producer, who is the consumer, who is the speaker, who is the listener, how he or she is producing the text, what is the mode, what is the tone, how discourse is produced, from where discourse is produced, what is the purpose of this discourse. Okay, context, background knowledge. When we interact with the people, we know what is their background. with whom we are interacting, what is our relationship with them. Okay, so keeping in mind all these things, we produce discourse. So, context is, linguistic context, the language, the words which are coming before the sentence and after the sentence, background knowledge context, cultural context, religious context. So, this is context, okay? I'll make another video on context as well. But for this purpose, what makes discourse, this is enough. So, now I summarize the difference between text and discourse. Usually, discourse which is written, which is realized, which is materialized on a piece of paper is called text. Otherwise, there is no difference in text and discourse. It can be written discourse, spoken discourse, or e-discourse. And there are 7 characteristics that makes discourse. Cohesion, coherence, informativity, acceptability, setting, intertextuality, okay, and intentionality. Thank you very much.